remember it like it was yesterday, the sting of their words echoing louder than the applause I'd never received. "You're wasting your time," my father said, turning away with a dismissive snort. "Bioacoustic nonsense. That's what you choose to chase? You'll never make a real difference doing that." My mother's face twisted with skepticism, whispering behind my back that I'd embarrass the family with my foolish dreams. I was just a kid then, naive enough to believe their doubts could be silenced by my own resolve. But the truth was, their words cut deeper than I wanted to admit. They called me a dreamer, said I was chasing fool's gold, that I was too idealistic to survive in the real world. When I dared to speak of my fascination with how ecosystems communicate through sound, how the whispers of trees, the hum of insects, the cries of animals could tell us more than any test result, they laughed. "Esoteric nonsense," they said. "You're better off focusing on something that matters, like a real job, a real career." It wasn't just words. It was a relentless barrage of ridicule, of rejection, of being told I was an embarrassment. For years, I buried that voice deep inside, choosing to work in labs and research that paid the bills but drained my soul. I was shunned by my peers, discredited, labeled a misguided idealist chasing after a pipe dream. I remember the hurt, being mocked at conferences, dismissed by colleagues, friends fading into silence because they thought I was chasing illusions. But I knew, deep down, that there was something true in the sounds I listened to, something vital, something real. So I pivoted. I left the toxic wasteland of my reputation behind and threw everything into bioacoustic ecology, the study of ecosystems through their sounds, the hidden warnings that nature whispers to itself. It was a lonely, relentless pursuit. I worked in barren lands, degraded habitats where hope was scarce. The work was grueling. Setting up equipment in heat, rain, mud, listening for signals that no one else believed mattered. Each setback felt like another blow. Equipment failure, funding cuts, skepticism from the very communities that should have supported me. The more I advanced, the more I faced the derision of those who called me crazy. Until one day, those whispers turned into warnings. My work started revealing what no one else wanted to see, the subtle sounds of ecosystem collapse, the silent calls of a world dying unnoticed. And then, everything changed. Years later, I became recognized, not just as an outsider, but as a pioneer in my field. My research exposed the unspoken danger signals in the ecosystems I studied. The soundscapes I uncovered became vital tools, early warnings that saved habitats, prevented ecological disasters, and inspired global conservation efforts. The very people who doubted me began to listen, and more importantly, they began to act. I transformed barren, rotting lands into thriving habitats, restoring what I thought was lost, turning silence into symphony, despair into hope. My work proved that what seemed esoteric nonsense was, in fact, the language of life itself. But the real test came when I finally returned home. It was a small town, nestled between mountains and fields, where everyone knew everyone, and everyone remembered who I was. I stepped off the plane, carrying nothing but my new world, my work, and a quiet resolve. The house looked smaller than I remembered. But something inside me was larger than ever. I was no longer the outsider, the laughingstock. They had watched my journey, even from a distance. I knew they had doubts, maybe even contempt, lingering beneath their surprised looks. That afternoon, I decided to show them. I set up a portable speaker and some eco mics I'd brought along and played recordings, sounds from one of my restored habitats, vibrant and thriving, alive with the whispers of a reborn ecosystem. I watched as their faces changed from skepticism to confusion, and then to awe. Suddenly, my mother's hand covered her mouth, her eyes welling with tears. My father, who had once mocked me relentlessly, trepidation flickered across his face. I could see it, a mix of guilt, regret, and the realization of what I had accomplished. The sounds of cicadas, water flowing over rocks, birds singing in lush trees, these were not esoteric nonsense. They were the voice of life, the language that I had learned to listen to, understand, and amplify. And in that moment, I saw their faces transform, no longer dismissive, but humbled. I saw the lesson in their eyes, that the real failure was dismissing what they didn't understand, condemning what was different, and mocking the only thing that could truly save the world. It was poetic justice, yes, but it was also a catharsis, proof that perseverance, belief, and unwavering passion could turn rejection into redemption. I had become the voice of a silent, suffering world, and I had brought back its whispering cry of hope. Standing there amidst the sounds of a thriving ecosystem, I realized something profound. The most powerful force in the universe is resilience. Every insult, every doubt, every dismissive sneer had only fueled my pursuit. And now I had the tangible proof. What I'd once been mocked for was the very thing saving lives, healing wounds, and rewriting the narrative of despair. As I packed up, I looked at my family, at their stunned faces, and I felt no anger, only compassion. They had been blind to truth because it was different, uncomfortable. But now, they saw it. They saw that what they derided was a bridge to salvation, a testament to the unyielding spirit of those willing to listen to the whispers of the world. And I understood something even deeper. Sometimes the greatest triumph is not in fame or recognition, but in knowing you've changed the world, quietly, persistently, and undeniably. I had proved that what once seemed esoteric nonsense was the language of life itself. I had turned silence into a symphony, shame into pride, and rejection into a monument of hope. And in doing so, I finally found peace, not just with myself, but with everything I had ever believed in. Because sometimes the most profound success is the ability to listen and to be heard.